Here we are, Reid's Renegade podcast, episode 1, the real episode 1 this time. I'm Rich, I'm the host. Producer Matt has disappeared. He's fallen off the face of the planet. We cannot find him, but it's okay because Jamie here's Will here. Introduce yourselves, guys.
Good evening, I'm Jamie Campbell-Mooney. I'm a student and fourth form Reid's.
Hi, my name's Will and I'm also in fourth form and I'm in Screen's house.
So we've been talking about this exact podcast. So we launched the whole podcast for Reid's house 2 weeks ago. We've been practicing, but this was always on the horizon to get these two super hardcore Star Wars fans to come in here to Reid's and do the podcast. Okay, so a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, when was the first time you saw this opening credit?
Probably when I was like maybe 4 years old. My dad is a big Star Wars fan too. He grew up with the films because he was born in the 70s. So he's a great fan and he wanted me to grow up with the films too. So I guess, that was my childhood.
So for me, my dad saw them in the cinema when they came out, but it was he was watching Phantom Menace and my brothers saw it and they really got into that. And because I was a tiny little kid, so I kind of just, their influence on me really brought me into it. And then with the Clone Wars film coming out in 2008 when I was 3, it really just heightens the awesomeness of Star Wars for me.
So just to set the stage for how old I am compared to these guys, it must have been 1986. And I have actual evidence that it was 1987. But I was born in 1982, and I know for a fact by 1987 I was a huge Star Wars fan, which kind of enters into the gap between the films. So we'll look into that. But we're going 1977, May 25th, A New Hope is released. Okay, and at the time it was released, there wasn't any episodes. It was just called Star Wars. They had no idea that this was going to be successful. In fact, they probably thought it was going to be a complete failure. So we're on the 44th anniversary. My childhood was dominated by Star Wars. Okay, isn't that what makes these films so great? What say you, Will?
Yeah, I think Star Wars is it sets morals for life really. There's the kind of good overcoming evil, and it's so important just in everyday life really. Just the morals it sets for people.
Exactly, just the characters are timeless, the music is brilliant, John Williams' score is just fantastic. It was really great to grow up with a franchise like that. I mean, I don't know about you, Will, but playing Lego Star Wars in the Wii was definitely a highlight of my childhood.
Yeah, that was PlayStation 2 for me.
Yeah, brilliant.
So Star Wars not only saved science fiction films, it redefined what a blockbuster film was. There wouldn't be a Marvel universe without Star Wars. There wouldn't even be a Titanic without it. So, Jamie, why is Star Wars your favorite film franchise?
Oh, wow. I'm just a huge fan of just the plot. It's just brilliant. It's just the fact that this whole other universe exists where these characters, this evil empire, the rebels, it's just brilliant. I'm just a really big fan of it. The whole lore behind it, you can be any type of fan. You can be a casual fan and enjoy it. You can be a hardcore fan like myself and just know what a holocron is.
I think I love Star Wars so much because it's not just the films and the Empire and the Rebellion and the Clone Wars. There's so much more behind it. You're never going to know everything there is to know because of all the comics and games and films and TV series that are coming out, like The Bad Batch, which is giving more character insight and developing on the Clone Wars even more. So it's an infinite supply really of knowledge to gain.
We went back through family footage a couple years ago with my family, and everyone was freaking out because my little sister was being born, and so she was born in September 1987. So all this footage is being filmed in the summer of '87, and all me and my brother are doing are watching Star Wars or playing with Star Wars toys. It's 24/7. That's all we were doing. So I go back and watch it. I was like, oh yeah, I was a huge fan, you're trying to play those impossible to find Kenner toys that you had to sort of mail order find, or your mom would find at a garage sale. Yeah. There was no real comics, very limited video games. You didn't have prequels. There was no Disney Plus. So you basically had the VHS recording of A New Hope with the commercials in, so you'd be sitting there fast forwarding through the commercials because you record it when it aired on TV. But right, first time, Will, you saw Star Wars in the cinema. What Star Wars did you see in the cinema?
Well, that would have been the Clone Wars film when I was 3. The first animated Star Wars, following the start of the Clone Wars and developing on new characters like Ahsoka Tano and it really goes into insight behind the clones as well. And I don't remember seeing it though because I was only 3. So, but fond memories, even though it's so long ago.
First Star Wars, Jamie?
2015, The Force Awakens. I walked in thinking it was going to be amazing, and I walked out thinking the same. I was smiling from ear to ear. It was just great to see the characters on screen again, especially Han Solo. When he walks through the doors into the Millennium Falcon, it's just amazing.
Yeah, that was good. 1997, the special editions came out, so I was there in the cinema, and you just see everyone was just so starved for this Star Wars. You know, you just knew George Lucas was sitting there counting in his billions, thinking, I've got to make these prequels happen. This is gonna and just sit through the New Hope and special edition. Now at the time I was 14. I don't prefer the special edition now, but you just seen all in a just to be in the cinema to watch it was just timeless. Right, before we dive into A New Hope, top 3 Star Wars films.
Ooh,
top 3, Will.
This is like choosing a favourite child. I'm not even a parent. This is impossible. This is going to be quite controversial, but Revenge of the Sith, in no particular order, by the way, but Revenge of the Sith has to be up there. I just love with Anakin's turn to the dark side and all the memes. And also Rogue One, which is, in my opinion, the best Star Wars Disney film. And finally, maybe A New Hope, because just that's what started it all off, really.
Yeah, I'd have to go with Rogue One, number 3. I just really like the Saving Private Ryan aspect. Kind of like they took this one throwaway line from the opening crawl and made it into this whole new film with lovable characters, like amazing quotes. I'm one with the Force and the Force with me. I was saying that for ages afterwards. Number 2, I'd probably put Revenge of the Sith as well. I'm just a huge sucker for those lightsaber battles. General Grievous is a great villain. I love him. And then Empire Strikes Back for number 1.
Well, there you go. That man knows his Star Wars. Yeah, Emperor's my 1, New Hope's 2, and I'll even throw in Force Awakens as 3, just because it was great to have off to a solid start. Right, a little background here. George Lucas. What do you know about Lucas?
So he grew up in Modesto in California, and he was really into kind of pulp comics like Flash Gordon and Zorro and Lone Ranger.
This is like Buck Rogers you hear about too. Like, don't you?
Oh yeah, Buck Rogers,
Flash Gordon serials. Yeah, right.
And he was really into that. So he would always play with his friends, like pretend to be Zorro, like get a stick and stuff. And that was his inspiration for Indiana Jones. Like when they were denied the rights for James Bond, Steven Spielberg and him were like, Buck Rogers, Zorro, the Lone Ranger, mix them together, comes Indiana Jones.
And we'll talk about a little bit about Indiana Jones and obviously Harrison Ford and what a launching pad that was. But so he goes to USC Film School. Lucas does. Yeah. He pals with Coppola, Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg. That whole crew's all there together. Like, think about A Time to Be Alive when they're in like this film class together. And Irving Kershner is their professor. You know who Irving Kershner is?
Yeah. Wasn't he the director of
Empire Strikes Back? So it's like, there's a teacher who just goes on to help him direct like the biggest movie ever at the time.
Brilliant.
He wanted to do it. Fox said, make this American Graffiti and we'll see if you're any good. So he goes and makes American Graffiti, which is basically about him growing up in the 50s in California. And then he goes on to do make Star Wars. You know, there's a really good documentary, Empire of Dreams. 2004, I think, came out, all about the making of Star Wars. So a lot of this is from there. Just the disaster film. Do you know where they filmed the desert scenes?
Tunisia.
Tunisia.
A lot of problems there.
Good tourism, though. It's a good boost. There's some geography.
You can find it on Google Maps, actually, the where Luke and Umber and Owen lived. It's quite cool.
It's still a site there. What kind of problems they have, Jamie?
Well, when they were building the Sandcrawler, they kind of made like a real life-size Sankor set, and like I think it was the Turkish government came over because they thought that the Tunisians were building some sort of super tank
to
try and invade.
or something.
And so they had to like sign off on all these documents.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that Anthony Daniels had a bunch of problems with the C-3PO costume.
Yeah, and with all the sand getting in like the.
And there's one scene in like the original where like a part falls off.
Yep. And he's like stands down on like spikes because that's like all the metal machinery from his feet just like stabbing him. But they had terrible weather, sandstorms, over budget, and then they're working with a British film crew when they go back to England, and they're like union. They're out the union.
Yeah, they're like here at 9, like out at 5.
Yeah. And it, lunch breaks, and you could ask. I think you could ask for an extra 15 minutes if you're finishing a shoot, but they could say no. And Lucas and these guys are going back and forth, and they're just saying no all the time. The original edit comes out. He screens it for all his friends.
They hate it.
Yeah,
they say it's so bad.
Yeah.
Like Spielberg's the only one who's like, you got something here, and the rest, Coppola's like, I don't get it. It's just terrible. This is the original cut that Lucas and his editor did. So he fires his editor, gets his wife in, and hires a new editor, and they basically recut the whole movie. Now, no special effects have been done yet. Is it Industrial Light and Magic, or who's?
There were a bunch of problems there too. Mm-hmm. So he founded like ILM to make Star Wars, and he hired this kind of like this visual effects guy who worked on a bunch of other projects. I think it might have been 2001, Space Odyssey.
Space Odyssey, yep.
They didn't get on at all, and George Lucas basically hated him. But when this guy got his Oscar, he was really happy, and then he just left.
Yeah.
So there were a bunch of problems there too.
Cuts about a bunch of early scenes and just gets straight to it. And we look at some of the most rewatchable scenes. We'll get to the categories in a second, but we get to the new cut, and it just makes it so much flashier, so much better.
Yeah.
And then they just crunch all the work. All those guys at ILM, they put all these 6 months to put all the scenes together. They get the budget in, and somehow you wonder how this wasn't just the biggest Hollywood disaster of all time. Okay. Box office grossed $775 million, $11 million budget. One of the biggest box office successes of all time. Nominated Best Picture, Director, Supporting Actor for Alec Guinness. We'll talk about him. Original Screenplay for Lucas. Lucas gets Best Director and Best Original Screenplay nominations.
Doesn't win.
He's
never won an Oscar.
No, doesn't win. They did win for costume design, film editing, which was Lucas's wife.
Yeah.
Original score, John Williams. We'll get to John. You got the art direction, sound, visual effects, 7 Oscars in total. So it absolutely cleaned up on that side. Right. So the categories we have most rewatchable scene. So what makes a rewatchable scene? My description of it is you're walking through your house and you see this scene on. You have to stop what you're doing and finish that scene. So that might be very well the last 30 minutes of the movie. So we will pick out the best scenes and what make them so great. We got the best quotes, underappreciated characters, casting what ifs. So who is going to be casted in what place? Picking nits. So the little things that bug us, even though we're monster fans. And then ultimately who won the movie. So who kind of leaves this movie in the best shape of anyone. So maybe won the film itself, but then who goes on to even greater success from here. Yeah. Spoiler alert, it's Lucas. But, right. The picks, rewatchable scenes. So you got the opening Empire attack. Just this iconic space scene, right? In the first 3 minutes, you get Leia, R2-D2, C-3PO, and freaking Darth Vader. Tell us about that opening scene. I mean, my God.
It's amazing. It's not really been seen before with the effects, and it's pretty mind blowing, especially for the audiences back when it came out. It's amazing.
Yeah, well, just the stormtroopers, seeing them like attack the rebels is just brilliant. You've got that opening shot with the Tantive 4, and then just the huge Star Destroyer that just doesn't seem to end, and then of course Darth Vader. And then interrogating the rebel and strangling him. It's just brilliant.
It just has to be like they just nailed the Darth Vader character.
Oh, yeah.
Like the size, the look, the voice. so you got David Prowse is the actual actor, and in the scenes he's just doing his voice with this like very posh British accent, and you're like, this doesn't work. And then they put James Earl Jones' voice on top of it. It's just perfection. And then you got the look of the stormtroopers. I mean, it's those first 5 minutes that set up this whole franchise, because you just got bam, 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 all these great characters put right in the middle. And we get to it at the end, but like they could have killed Vader off in this movie.
Yeah, they really could in like the trench run scene.
Yeah. Like if he doesn't spin out, like I mean, you got to bring him back, don't you? He's like one of the most popular characters after this. So at least they were smart enough to keep him alive. I mean, one day we'll get to Empire Strikes Back, and that Vader completely changes everything and becomes a completely different person. You guys are historians. Is the Empire just the Nazis?
I agree, but I see the First Order or as Nazis, especially in Force Awakens with Hux's speech and the banners behind. I got very Nazi Germany vibes off that. But I would say, I can see the similarities in it. Yeah,
it's super reminiscent of kind of World War II, but maybe also kind of feudal Japan, kind of like rebels against the samurai. Maybe that's the whole inspiration of Darth Vader as like an evil samurai.
Yeah, that's
Kurosawa's influence on George Lucas.
That's probably more of it. I mean, combined with the uniform. I mean, the Imperial uniforms just scream. Yeah. It's only 30 years since the end of World War II. That's how old this film is. But it's crazy. We finally get to Luke. Gosh, he's so young in this. Mark Hamill. And you see Mark Hamill now, that crazy old hermit, old Mark. But here, he's just so young. He's almost a little too whiny, but he plays it up almost perfectly. Is he overacting here, or is he just perfect?
I feel like that could be a slight nitpick with just his. You do see the whininess in him, like, and then that goes on to the prequels with Anakin kind of seeming whiny and all that. But I think it's good because like a kid with like no parents living with his uncle and aunt, and you can understand, like living on a desert planet, it's of course you're going to be a bit whiny.
Leia's message to Obi-Wan. When you guys first see this, you know the story, you know all these characters already, right? Like this is nothing completely new. So, is Uncle Owen the grumpiest character in all Star Wars?
I mean, he does give Luke some blue milk and cookies. I'm not too sure.
Blue milk. But then I was thinking, this is how I'm watching it. A little Reid's inside joke. Luke doesn't want to be a farmer. Tristan and Jack just turn off Star Wars. They're like the first 10 minutes they're just out. Like, what do you mean? Doesn't want to be a moisture farmer? Well, turn it off.
We try and get we say it's about farming.
It's a farming film. You're gonna love it. They've got all this high tech farming gear. So you get the sequence. They rescue R2. He runs away. Then there's Attack of the Sand People, and then you get Obi-Wan. I mean, here he is.
Yeah.
So Alec Guinness, you want to talk about Alec Guinness a little bit?
Well, I've got a slight claim to fame here. So he used to go to the same church as my mum when she was little, and she'd always like try and shake his hand during mass and stuff. And
peace be with you, Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
A little of that Obi-Wan, dust on her.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing! Excellent.
I think he portrayed him really well. He really got the kind of hermit with a large backstory behind him vibes. He just seems like he has a past that it makes you want to know about it, really.
Yeah, which you do. I mean, you thought of the whole story, and then he didn't necessarily tell it to Alec Guinness, but then somehow, even with the context of the prequels, you feel like the performance is like an evolution of Ewan McGregor's character. So it was just brilliant. However, there was some behind-the-scenes stuff where Alec Guinness had to change a bunch of dialogue. And because of that, George Lucas said, I'll give you 0.25% of the profits. And then when the film actually came out, the producer phoned him and said, yeah, so we're going to be giving you your 0.025%.
Yeah, hoping he wouldn't notice.
So he got bunnies, basically.
He got absolutely nothing. Well, yeah, even with all the profit, it's still not enough. I mean, we'll talk about casting what ifs, but he was like, I would compare him to Ian McKellen with Lord of the Rings. He was like, this is the legitimate actor.
Yeah.
This is a classically trained, like Broadway actor that is going to give legitimacy to this ridiculous film. And I mean, everyone, even the crew, were like, "What the hell is this movie about? This is a joke, right?" But there's Alec Guinness; it can't be that bad. And he just, he was kind of like the mentor for all the young actors. You look at especially Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill; they're early 20s here. They're just getting their career started.
Yeah.
You get the Round Table of Imperials, and you get my boy Grand Moff Tarkin, Peter Cushing. Do you know anything about Peter Cushing?
No, not much. Sorry.
What role he made famous?
I should know this, but unfortunately I don't. I do know about the thing with his shoes. Have you heard this story?
No, I don't know this.
So he was wearing these really tight imperial like black shoes that they all have to wear, but he's got like abnormally large feet, and so they didn't have the right size because of course they were over budget. They couldn't do like reshoots with these new shoes or whatever. So he's like, "Can I just wear slippers and you can like film me from the waist up?" So that's what they did.
Yeah, that's amazing. So he's famous for Nosferatu, Dracula. I mean, he's just got that face. He just looks like a horror character from the 60s, and even Vader just does whatever he says. You get into the relationship here, so you get there's this natural chemistry between Luke and Han, isn't there? Like there's this rivalry. They're kind of at each other's throats. It's interesting how it starts off like they don't trust each other, and it kind of like you see how they kind of grow to be closer.
It seems to be like a sense of brotherhood towards the end, and they can rely on each other. But then later on, even towards Return of the Jedi, they still seem to have like slight kind of arguments and conflicts, but it seems more like brotherly love rather than genuine despise of each other.
We get to the death of Uncle Owen and Beru. It really kicks the movie off at the high gear. Now it's a space adventure. So
the skeletons, they set tone.
The Empire means business. It's not like really a kids movie anymore, is it?
Yeah.
And you see the sharper editing. It's so much snappier. The sequences, the cuts. We get to Obi-Wan's Jedi mind trick on the patrol of stormtroopers.
These are not the droids
you're looking for. Right into the top quotes, but instantly made the Jedi's cool because he just seems like some hermit monk in this robe. But now, I mean, is the Jedi mind trick the greatest Jedi power?
I think potentially it just changes like what people think really, and you can do anything with that, can't you? So I think like you said, it's really nice how. He just seems like a hermit, but then there's just a sense of power behind what he can really do, like just controlling these Imperial soldiers like they're nothing.
Yeah, it really makes him feel like kind of like this wizard character is really unknown to the audience and has the kind of like this gravitas that you're really interested in.
Yeah, and it's that magic, and it's almost subtle. You're like, did he just control his mind? It's not like flashy it's like the Force too. It's just not there, but you just kind of see it happening. Then Obi-Wan goes straight up murder someone at the bar.
Oh, yeah.
Cementing him as an all-time great Star Wars character. Will! Top 5 Star Wars characters.
Oh, well, we're talking about Obi-Wan, and it's probably got to be Obi-Wan for number 1. Just, because of Alec Guinness and then his legacy portrayed by Ewan McGregor, and just how well he plays it. Then maybe it might have to be Count Dooku for number 2 for just how well Christopher Lee plays him, and just you really get a sense of his nobility and his higher class as he is a count. And then maybe it would have to go to Captain Rex from the Clone Wars the animated series. He's just a soldier. He knows what he's doing. Really, he doesn't take any rubbish or back talk, and he's just a strong character. But I might just keep it on the top 3.
Wow. Will, are you gonna throw in Luke Skywalker here, or?
I'm probably gonna say Darth Vader / Anakin for number 1. It's just his story is so complex and emotional. Probably gonna say Obi-Wan for number 2. The same reasons that Will said, but I also think he's kind of like a cool character in the prequels. And then number 3, I'm gonna say Darth Maul. I really like his character design. His performance in the Clone Wars and Rebels is great. I loved his cameo in Solo. And then I'd go number 3, Luke Skywalker. I really like the Return of the Jedi, and just when he comes into Jabba's palace, that's brilliant. Number 4, I'd maybe say Count Dooku too. I just love his regal aspect and his fighting style. And then number 5, Yoda.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
He's the
yeah.
man.
Without hot take here, but without Luke Skywalker and Return of the Jedi, that's a terrible movie.
Sure.
They pulled him in with the tractor beam, the Death Star tractor beam. So impressive how big the scale is. They do everything they can with the limited budget that they have. I found Harrison Ford here, is really selling the scene here. He's so awesome.
Yeah.
Radio, I mean, Han on the radio here as they rescue Leia. He's just so funny. Like, the humor here, it works.
Yeah.
I love the THX reference with the cell number. That's a really good touch.
Yeah.
His first feature film.
Yeah, back to look at Lucas. And, and then right away there's this Leia just taking absolutely no shade off of Han. They're like at each other's throat from the second they pull her out of the cell. And you're like, oh yeah, she can handle herself. Leia gets a lot of flack for never missing a single shot. But she's dynamite here. Then we get the big distraction, Obi-Wan, final battle of Darth and the escape. A lot more meaning in that battle now because with all those knowledge of the prequels. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so it's really interesting because earlier Obi-Wan was talking to Luke about how Luke's father was a cunning warrior and fought in the Clone Wars with him. And then, and his student. And then later on, when he goes to fight Darth Vader, Vader says that he was but the learner and now he's the master. So you know that there's a past with them, but it kind of remains ominous. You don't really know what their relationship is because you don't know that Vader is Luke's father at this point. And I think it's just really nice. It makes you want to learn more about how these characters like know each other already.
Yeah, I find that scene so compelling. Besides kind of the choreography, because of course with limited technology back then, they couldn't do anything crazy like Episode 3, for example. So it's just two guys like going away at each other, trying to see who the best lightsaber opponent is. Yeah, brilliant.
It is good. The fight with the TIE fighters, and they're in the Millennium Falcon shooting them up. So Lucas is inspired by his World War II movies of the time.
Yeah.
Dog fights as the basis for it still looks really good. The final battle against Death Star, Han's big return, gets to be the hero. What are we missing here? How about these last 30 minutes?
Oh, I really like Tarkin's kind of underestimating the rebels, and that underestimation is the cause of his death. So that's quite tragic actually, because the Death Star was kind of his big design, and then he just goes away. I really also enjoy Wedge Antilles. I think he's a great character. He comes and saves Luke.
Yeah, very underrated because he actually saved the franchise pretty much because that tie that was on Luke's tail in the trench, he destroyed it, and if not, Luke might have died. And then
no, that's true. His scenes get cut from the beginning as well because they're pals from the old Tatooine days, aren't they?
The Tosche station.
How about Biggs pulling Darth Vader, escaping? Is he the coward of the film?
I don't know. Biggs' character was just like, it was just there. There wasn't a lot of development with it. That's, I think, why they cut some of the scenes out.
Yeah,
they seemed to drag on a bit too much and wasn't really building on the story. It just seemed to make it like almost worse actually. Just the scenes dragging on, and you just want to get back into the action of what's happening with like Leia and the Empire. Really,
there's the one big final battle now. As the films progress, so you get the sequel to Empire, and we'll do a full deep dive on Empire one day. But then you've got two battles happening there. So the chase to rescue Han, and then there's the Luke and Vader. So you go from one final battle to two. Then each subsequent film, you go from 3 or 4 final battles. So there's just this one confrontation. It's so focused. It's the Battle of the Death Star. That's it. That's all the energy. Is this better, or is it better to have all these? I mean, you got all these extra characters. What are you going to do with them?
I like it how it's just one big final battle because it makes you feel like it's the conclusion to the film and almost to the franchise because the film feels like a whole franchise in itself for all the development and the characters in just a space of the 2 hours of how long the film is. But I think it's good because that's where all your focus is, and you're not thinking, oh, what's happening to them. You're just straight in the battle, and that's what it is until the end.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It makes you almost feel like helpless. Like Leia and the General and 3PO, and they can't help Luke. He's on his own. He's got to use the Force to try to get the proton into the Death Star and blow it up. So I think it's great how it's only one scene that makes you focus all your attention on that, and then when Han Solo comes in with the Millennium Falcon and Chewie, you're just like, yes, save the day. Yeah.
It's such a hero moment. I mean, it's like hero ball. He just takes over at the end of the movie, and you just he at that moment, that yeehaw, you're like, that guy's a star. That guy's a super duper star. Yeah. And we'll get to Solo. We'll get to Harrison Ford a little bit, but we talked about not killing Vader off. Do they regret this decision 20 years later when they kill off Darth Maul? I know they say no and they bring him back, but does he not just become the villain for the next 3 movies?
Yeah, I think it was a good idea to not kill off Darth Vader. Darth Maul, they didn't really know what to do with him. He was just kind of there. He was kind of like the Phantom Menace was Palpatine, but he was just like a pawn, and he had to go to progress
His story.
plan. Yeah.
But I think it's a really nice touch they brought Maul back into the Clone Wars and Rebels, because I think personally he's got one of the most interesting character arcs. How he seemed like on the verge of death, but it's just his hate that brought him back. So I think that's nice. It was perfect that they brought him back. Really developed him and the others around him, like his main adversaries like Obi-Wan, and his relationship with Maul.
Right. Did we miss any scenes? Was there anything else? Any must-have things that we didn't cover?
I think the cantina scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, hand shot first. We got to talk about that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So it's only my picking nits, but go for it now. Will go for it.
Yeah.
Or go for it, Jamie.
So, in the 1977 film, Han Solo is basically in trouble with Jabba, and Greedo's coming along to take the bounty, and he's like, "I might only take a ship," and then he's like, "Over my dead body." And they basically have like a Western kind of standoff, and Han just shoots him under the table, cementing him as like this ruthless character.
Yeah.
And the fact that they change it in 1997 to both of them shooting at the same time, and Han viciously dodging the shot.
It wasn't great editing. It looked a bit like lag, actually.
It's the most edited scene in film history.
Oh yeah.
They've changed it so many times, and it's just leave it. He's a smuggler. He's not a hero yet. He'll become one at the end of the film.
And that's his whole arc.
Yeah, but it's just Lucas, just leave it. You can't leave it. It's like, oh, we got another rant about that. Anything else? What we forgot?
Just a bit more about the cantina scene. I think it's probably the most memorable, just because it really just shows you how diverse this different galaxy is. How not one person in the cantina or creature looks the same. There's hundreds of different species, and there's the droids serving the drinks, and it really is a wretched hive of scum and villainy. You can just tell the people looking around. It's a really shady place, and it's perfectly presented.
They try to do it 2 more times, so they do an Attack of the Clones and they do it in Force Awakens, and it doesn't come close. Mm-hmm. And amazingly, Lucas hated it. It was the one scene he wanted to get rid of, and it's the one thing that everyone loves.
Yeah.
But all those goofy characters in there, it's just wonderful. Right, best quotes. Before a quote, actually, almost throwaway line from Tarkin at the beginning, talking about dissolving the Senate. This means nothing in the original trilogy. It means so much when you add in the prequels. What a line.
That's why I love it so much, is because with the prequel trilogy, there was this whole subplot with the Senate, and some critique it and say they focus too much on it, but you kind of need this sort of political aspect to see, oh, how does this empire work? Do they control literally everything? No, there's a Senate. Oh, the Senate's being dissolved. It's like, it's a good insight and gives you some context into it, so that's really great.
Yeah. I think it's really crucial, these politics that they have in Star Wars, because it's not just lightsabers and blasters and smugglers. There's the whole there's the whole political system about it and how stuff gets decided with chancellors, supreme chancellors, and just how the empire came to be. So it's one of the most crucial things in the Star Wars storyline, the politics behind it.
Okay, I've got 4 more quotes, and then you can hit me up with yours. So help me, Obi-Wan. You're my only hope.
Yeah,
God,
that's
it's just,
for
sure.
Yeah.
Or I find your lack of faith disturbing. We got a whole deep dive in that scene. But Mos Eisley Spaceport, you will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy, like you said.
Brilliant.
And if you strike me down, I should become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
This is great dialogue, which is because there's some bad dialogue, but
That's definitely true. Star Wars really is a goldmine for quotes, isn't it? And they always stick with you. And I find myself during everyday life, someone says something, I can't help but think of these Star Wars quotes to match it, you know. But one that I like is hokey religions and ancient weapons are no match for a good blaster at your side, kid. And that's Han Solo that says that to Luke, and it just shows that he's the kind of guy that would just hand straight to the blaster and not really thinking about it. And that just enhances the sense of like smuggeliness.
I'm a big fan of the Force will be with you always. Like when Luke has just blown up the Death Star and they're heading away in the X-wing. It's just brilliant. I also like the Force is strong with this one, and I have a very bad feeling about this.
Yeah.
Kind of like the signature Star Wars.
Yeah, those seem to be the quotes, don't they? That they just come repeated in each of the films, and when it happens, you just know it, they're just every film has one of those at least once, don't they?
there's probably 20 more. But yeah. So underappreciated characters, it's really difficult because you're the star of these just amazing characters that we just go on and on about for 30 years. I put Grand Moff Tarkin. This is his only film. I mean, they bring him back, but because he's just so awesome, I think Peter Cushing just plays it so well.
Yeah. Jamie and I made a small list, and he was actually on number one, but we had an honourable mention, which was Porkins.
Porkins!
Yeah.
He starts that tradition of the big pilot that gets blown up.
Yeah, he's always the guy with the enemy on his tail, and he can't shake him. I can't shake him, and then he gets blown up.
Who's the rebel leader who misses? I mean, he's the least appreciated rebel. He almost ends the entire rebellion by missing.
He does get blown up though, doesn't he?
Yeah, he gets his. Greedo, underappreciated character.
He wasn't really. I didn't think it was too crucial. He was just he was there to more enhance Solo's story rather than for just a new character for the fun of the character. You know, it was his only importance was Han Solo, but he did have a cameo thingy in Phantom Menace where young Anakin beat him up in the street. So that was pretty funny. But they had to delete that.
In one of the deleted scenes. It's quite sad, actually.
You do feel for him. Maybe that's what started him off to his bounty hunting.
Casting what ifs. So Lucas's buddy Francis Ford Coppola is filming Carrie at the exact same time. So they share the auditions. They go through thousands of people. They end up on the main cast. We talked about Alec Guinness, him being like the classically trained, mentor. Helps sell the movie because everyone else here is such an unknown. Harrison Ford, comes into Reid with the actors because he's the only one that has a relationship with Lucas because he's in American Graffiti previously. Yeah. They just don't want him. They think, you're not right. You're 35, 36 years old. We're just not going to get you. He keeps reading so well that they keep him and they actually hire him, and the rest is history. But then, a very young, he's kind of the older mentor for the very young Hamill and the very young Carrie Fisher who have their own stories. But did you guys find any other casting what ifs?
So for Han Solo, I think he maybe potentially had the most because everyone wants to be, the smuggler and the exciting character in the story. But some of the most famous ones is Kurt Russell, who you all probably know, Christopher Walken, and Billy D. Williams, quite interestingly, because he was a potential candidate to play Han Solo, but then they just thought he didn't have the right kind of vibe to him, so he was put as Lando, who was introduced in Empire Strikes Back as like another smugglery kind of person.
Oh yeah, so This is one for Obi-Wan Kenobi before they settled in Alec Guinness. I think that was George Lucas looking from like Lawrence of Arabia, and his Akira Kurosawa's influence on his film made him want to have Toshiro Mifune, which is this actor from Seven Samurai and I think maybe The Hidden Fortress, which heavily inspired A New Hope. So he was going to like, wear the robes and stuff like that, but he was a bit like everyone else at the time. He wasn't so sure that it was going to be a successful film and it might look bad in his resume, so he just opted out.
What a deep dive. That's excellent. Right, so picking nits, little things that bug us. Ben Kenobi, really? You don't change your last name when you're in hiding for all these years? I mean,
That is true.
that's almost unforgivable. Obi-Wan's story to Luke about his father. Great pilot, good friend. In the prequels, Obi-Wan actually hates Anakin. How good of friends are they? Greedo's scene is still a mess.
Yeah.
The Imperial who talks trash to Vader before getting choked. No, nobody does this. That's the only time.
He knows what Darth Vader can do.
Yeah.
Why
Is that his first day? Who's this?
Yeah.
Who hired this guy? There's the mind probe on Princess Leia. What does that mean? Did they inject her in the head? And it's never mentioned again. You never see it.
No.
So what happened there? And then there's some wonky dialogue in 1977 standards. Even the cast joked in the documentary that you could write it, but you can't read it. The comedy works though. Han, he's just brilliant.
Yeah. So one that we thought was that in the throne room scene at the end, that Chewbacca nor C-3PO or R2, none of them get medals, and it's pretty outrageous and unfair. But it's just Chewbacca. He's already such a lovable character at that point, like the big fluffy dog-looking guy, and everyone wants him to get a medal, but he doesn't. It's just such a small thing. It means a lot.
Yeah, that was quite unfair. Anyway, I would agree that the transitions between some scenes, they're just a bit wonky and don't fit. For example, there's some wipes, like clockwise wipes, and some weird ones like that just don't fit the vibe of the film.
Yeah, makes it feel like it was made on like PowerPoint or something.
Yeah.
With the transitions and then there's the scenes where I feel like it drags it out too much. Like I said earlier in the Toshi station where he went to pick up the power converters. There was fast dialogue. It was unnecessary. It felt like it was a behind the scenes almost, just something not necessary that's extra for you to watch.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely part of what's aged the worst. I think one thing aged, before we get into who won the movie, but aged the best is the soundtrack. I mean, it's like
for sure.
all time.
Yeah.
People who listen to 100 years from now,
Yeah.
it's just the best score for a film. John
Yeah.
Williams just at his absolute best here. The ultimate flex, just with the Imperial March, the opening theme, the end theme. It just goes on and on.
The Force theme, the binary sunset, a great shot coupled with brilliant music. It just makes you
It's
such
just
an
yeah.
emotional
It just there's not a song out of place here. It's just it's special stuff. Right, so we get to the final counter. Who won the movie? We got nominations. You got George Lucas, Harrison Ford, John Williams. Anyone else you want to throw in?
Well, we both had to agree on John Williams.
Yeah, we did a bit of before thinking on this, and it's just the music. Like Star Wars, it's the story. It's like the lightsabers, the fighting, the good, the bad. But it's also the music. When you think about Star Wars, you think about like the repeating motifs in it, and it's what really binds it together. You know, and John Williams, he just doesn't fail. There's no bad piece of music he's made for Star Wars. And when you think it can't get any better, like for Phantom Menace, a Duel of the Fates, he like smacks us with like a Battle of the Heroes and Revenge of the Sith, and it's just mind blowing, really, isn't it?
And then when he's in his 70s, he makes Rey's theme, which is brilliant. Kylo Ren's theme. The man just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
It provides sort of like a sense of scale, especially with the opening scene, but also again with the binary sunset, like emotion when it's needed the most.
Yeah. When I do need a good cry, I do put on Binary Sunset. Actually.
Right, hear me out. Here's my argument for Ford. Okay, so 77 does Star Wars. 79 he joins Lucas's buddy Coppola. Has a small scene in Apocalypse Now. then here's this murderer's row. 80 does Empire. 81 Raiders of the Lost Ark, the first Indiana Jones. 82 Blade Runner. 83 Return of the Jedi. 84 Temple of Doom.
Yeah,
I mean, he hits
sick run.
top 10 grossing films one after the other. He just becomes the mega superstar in Hollywood. My pick's George Lucas, though. He makes the Empire here. $7 billion, sells it to Disney for what, $4 billion. He's beyond rich, but he's just set this whole thing up with this film. You know, it goes in all these different directions. It's now, you know, it's the biggest franchise as part of a, you know, corporation, which was the opposite of what he was trying to do as an independent filmmaker. But for an independent filmmaker to create this and all of this money, it's got to be Lucas, right?
Maybe Lucas and John Williams tied.
Well, they are connected in that sense. Right, is there anything else before? We might not get another chance to do we get to Empire, or we might let you guys pick the next one. But anything else about A New Hope before we wrap it up?
I still can't believe this whole thing was created because he wanted to make a Flash Gordon movie.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, he started one of the biggest franchises ever just because of that.
Yeah.
And another thing which I find quite funny about it is when they're originally filming it, they didn't want anyone to know, and they called it the Blue Harvest. And Tris and Jack were like this, but they said it was a farming film. So I think that's what deterred people originally from like wanting to get into it.
That's spectacular. Well, it's a great time at the moment to be a Star Wars fan. You know, Mandalorian season 2 is done. The Bad Batch is out now. It's just every sort of month there's new Star Wars news, and I know you guys are super excited about it. My kids are super excited about it. I'm super excited about it. We're going to do a Reid's trip to Disneyland for the Galaxy. No, not really. Well, wait, let that be something. But yeah, so this episode is officially the first episode of the RRR podcast, Triple R. So it's the Reid's Renegades Radio, and we'll have one out every week. And we got the young guys here, the future. So thank you to Jamie and Will for coming on. These are going to be our Star Wars experts, and I know this won't be their last time on the podcast. So thank you for listening. This is Rich.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
A great opportunity.
Happy days. Signing out.